Today, the White House said Trump will make a decision on the U.S. involvement in Iran within the next 2 weeks. All good, no rush. Just take your time. What? If Trump thinks about this decision for 2 weeks, it'll beat his previous thinking record by 2 weeks.
Oh, those hilarious pranksters at network television. Those corporations, they're very corporate-y corporations. The Democrats, they're big hypocrites, and some days they love the corporation, right? Some days they don't. But their propaganda apparatus, very, very, very impressive. A very good and happy Friday to you, and welcome back once again. I'm watching videos of the B-2 stealth bomber dropping some beautiful bombs in the desert, U.S. Air Force videos. And all the talk all over the media is President Trump. He now is giving himself 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I say, 2 weeks to decide to make up his mind, should I or shouldn't I drop some really big 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs on an Iranian nuclear facility. The Democrats are like, oh, no, they're working on dental hygiene. So what do the Democrats say? I think it's dental. It's oral hygiene. That's why they buried a uranium enrichment facility 300 feet under rock, because they're very interested in nuclear medicine, depending on the meaning of those words, because the Democrat Party, aren't they amazing? Yeah, and President Trump now talking 2 weeks. I've got to say, I've been going back and forth on this a little bit, but I think that President Trump is setting up a situation where he's rattling the cage of the world, and he's providing a lot of sleepless nights to the leadership in Iran. There's no doubt about that. Oh, no, what is he going to do? And they got to stay up rubbing their eyes and rewrapping their turbans and stuff and say, well, what is Trump going to do? What is Trump going to do? And I think that President Trump is negotiating. I know that he's negotiating, that it's the art of the deal in real time, and it may end up with B-2 bombers dropping munitions on, in particular, this Fordo nuclear facility buried deep underground, very much like the facility in the movie Top Gun Maverick, if you've seen that, because that's all about bombing Iran's underground nuclear facility. That's what the whole movie is based on, and it's all about where we are right now. Hollywood, way ahead of us again. You know, they're so smart in Hollywood. Remarkable stuff. But talking about a 2 week thing, and I've got to say, more and more, here's where I am now. I think President Trump, we're hearing that the Europeans are now, you know them, they're going to take a pause from sipping a not so fussy Chardonnay and throwing bonbons back to their uvulas. And they're going to say, well, maybe we shouldn't be in favor of just allowing the world's leading state sponsors of radical Islamic jihadi terror to enrich uranium and make an arsenal of nuclear weapons. Maybe we as Europeans should actually be against that. Maybe, and I tell you, if you get the Euros and the phony baloney, this phony guy from the IAEA, he's out there saying, oh no, they don't want a nuclear bomb. They just want to make their heads shine in the sunlight. They by enriching uranium and having lots of U-238 or whatever they need. They're enriching uranium that makes it weapons grade, that is nuclear weapons grade. Nothing to do with medicine or energy or any of the things that the left will lie to you about, because they'll lie to you about the sun coming up, these people. But I'm thinking that President Trump is looking for a way to rally the so-called world, and that would be the Western Europeans and NATO. And if you get them all to agree, okay, we can go forward, but absolutely no enrichment, then President Trump finds an off-ramp toward the end of after extracting concessions from the Islamists in Iran, and there's no bomb ever dropped, no B-2 stealth bomber flights. I'm thinking that that's where we're angling right now. And President Trump is masterful. He's expert at creating the doubt in their minds and in everybody's minds, and the minds of Democrats, if you can call them minds, creating all this panic that usually they're just in a gender panic. But this creates a nuclear panic, which I think is a better thing to panic about. If you're going to panic, it shouldn't be about your own genitalia. You should just be comfortable with that. But they've got a lot of issues, lots and lots of issues. And I think President Trump is going to create, now, I mean, the crisis already exists, but I think he is sizing up the situation and utilizing the circumstances to put the fear of Allah into the terrorists and the Democrats, who might be worse than the Islamists, honestly, in myriad ways. So we've got that, but I think that President Trump is likely to, in 2 weeks' time now, we got this 2-week timeline, as, oh, no, he might drop bombs. It's Friday. People say things like that. It's Friday. He might drop them because it's Friday, like that has something to do with it. And we're hearing that, and it doesn't. We're hearing that, but I'm thinking President Trump, one of the things he wants? To mock and ridicule Barack Obama, who, you remember Barack Obama took a shot at Donald Trump when he was in the audience at the White House Correspondents' Dinner years ago, before Donald Trump was running for president. And Donald Trump said, okay, Barack Obama thinks he can just take a shot at me like that. Maybe I'll just run for president and win and undo everything that Barack Obama ever did. And one of the things Barack Obama did was the JCPOS, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of beep. And now President Trump is going to, everything Barack Obama did as president should be undone by the civilized world, because he's not on our side at all. But now we've got this 2-week window, and negotiations are now set to be ongoing for 2 weeks. And Israel has dominated the airspace over the entire country of Iran, and they can take out what they want to take out. And if we wanted to send B-2 bombers in, according to all of the open reporting now, the B-2s, which can fly over at 50,000 feet, by the way, making them hard to take down for any of the bad guys, and drop a couple of these bunker buster bombs, 30,000-pound bombs, 2 per aircraft per B-2 Spirit, the stealth bombers, and boom, boom, you can take that. But I think President Trump, one of the things he wants, and I don't think he's ever going to get it, but he might earn it, even though he'll never get it, is the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump would like, and that would be a thumb in the eye to Barack Obama, up the yin-yang, and doing it, getting the Nobel Peace Prize, at least being nominated certainly for the Nobel Peace Prize, by way of really denuclearizing Iran, when Barack Obama created a giant lie about denuclearizing Iran with his JCPOS. And President Trump could walk away at the end of the day, and he's quite a crafty guy, walk away at the end of the day saying, well, now Iran has no nuclear program, not because of Hussein, that's Barack Hussein Obama, not because of Hussein, but because of Donald John Trump. Then Donald Trump would laugh all the way to the Nobel Awards, although, once again, the Nobel run by lefties in Europe, and they'll never give them to Donald Trump. He could end all warfare for all eternity, and the Nobel Committee would still say they went with Barack Obama for his melanin levels. Because the Nobel Committee gave Barack Obama the Nobel Peace Prize, which comes with $1 million in cash. And then he went ahead and attacked 8 countries around the world as president over the course of 8 years. The greatest number of countries attacked by a U.S. president since Harry Truman and FDR during World War II. And that's Barack Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. He won. And he didn't even have to run against girls, which it might be funny to watch. It'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it? That's good. Hey, speaking of which, speaking of running against girls, and Michelle Obama has emerged. She came out and she said, there's another one we didn't get to yesterday, but she's got her own podcast. Who doesn't? I think Osama bin Laden has his own podcast, and he was killed years ago and thrown in the ocean, wrapped up like a corn dog. But never mind that. The Michelle Obama has emerged, and she said she's really happy that she didn't have a boy in terms of giving birth, right? Didn't have a boy because she's afraid that the boy would have grown up to be just like Barack. And that's why she's happy she didn't have a boy. because she certainly doesn't want another one of them. Do you know why? Was that like the Larry Sinclair thing? Do you think that has to do with Larry Sinclair? Or is that Michelle being, what did Joan Rivers say about Michelle? Definitely a tranny, the first tranny first lady. I think that's true. But Michelle Obama, she's on a tear. And I just can't, every time this comes up, Michael Pierce and I end up talking about Joan Rivers. And I think her last interview with a dude on the street when she was going into her apartment building.
Do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. We all know. Come on, we all know. So, yeah, Michelle, she's got a podcast now. She said she's happy she didn't have a boy, just those two girls. And why is she, Michael, I guess we got this now. We're talking about it now. Because here's Michelle Obama on her own podcast, because some people have nothing but time. And here's Michelle Obama on her, that should be the name of her podcast, Nothing But Time.
You should have threw a boy in the mix. I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It was like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
No, I would have felt for him.
Yeah, no, you might get the impression that they're not really fond of each other. It might have to do with Larry Sinclair and being a tranny. And I'm glad I didn't have a boy because it'd be a Barack, and you don't want that. Amazing stuff. But in any case, back to President. Enough transgender stuff. We'll leave the Democrats for later in the program. Are they all transgender? Did you see at Oregon? We have one of our 50 states is Oregon. It's out on the West Coast for Democrats trying to follow along. And you got Washington up there north, and Oregon, then California on the West Coast. They're on the Pacific Ocean. I don't know if you're familiar with the oceans of the world, but yeah, Pacific Ocean. And in Oregon, they had the Democrats in control of the state house because of communism and everything. And they have, in Seattle, they've got a 16-foot bronze statue downtown out in public for everyone to see of Vladimir Lenin, the Soviet communist revolutionary mass murderer. Got a 16-foot bronze statue because they're Democrats and they're a lot of mental issues. But in the Oregon State House, they had two giant transgender men. They say transgender. They're just dudes who could play in the NFL. And they're kind of dressed like women. They're barely even dressed. And one dude's got a shaved head, and he's like 6'4", 240, and he's got some kind of a Caribbean pantsuit on or something. And he's dancing. What songs did they dance to? Yeah, some Beyonce song and an Aretha Franklin song. And in Oregon, the Democrats brought these two dudes in who don't look like a lady, and they had them dance around to celebrate transgender child genital mutilation.
The opening ceremony today will be presented by Isaiah Esquire and Aquaflora.
Aquaflora.
Performing I Was Here by Beyonce.
But not for
and
long.
A Deeper Love by Aretha Franklin.
When they say a deeper love, you don't even want to know.
They are from Portland and are guests of Representative Nelson.
Representative Nelson is introducing, and they're going to do music and stuff because they're playing this and this is in the State House. This isn't in a bar at 1 a.m. on a Thursday night. Everybody microdosing LSD. This is in the State House, and there are these two dudes dancing, and as one huge dude does the splits, he drops and does the splits. That explains why he's wearing the funny pantsuit. And they're from satellite photos. They're unmistakably men. But the Democrats are very, very, very unwell. And keep in mind, it was Barack Obama that gifted us this Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. And now we're still working our way out of Barack Obama's foreign policy. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. We shouldn't elect presidents that are just not on our side. You know what I mean by that. Democrats. We shouldn't elect Democrats not on our side. In the meantime, all kinds of updates on Iran, Israel, the Middle East, war, nuclear weapons, the jihad, the Democrat Party. Israel, Iran, updates. European ministers to press Iran to curtail, to curtail nuclear activities. But it's all just for medicine and energy, according to Democrats, who have the brains of squirrels after being run over by cars, which is kind of sad. Speaking of which, we had a big storm around here. You see this big storm? Big storm. Very tragic. Electricity and things like that. We are at 888-630-9625.
I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Democrat Party theme songs. You know, we've been using Lola for years. As the song Lola as the Democrat Party's theme song, and I think "Dude Look Like a Lady" is one of them, and they've got a lot of issues, these people. All right, listen, I've got the Wall Street Journal update for you, reporting on the Iran situation and President Trump and the U.S., and I want to share that with you momentarily. Right now, let us go to the telephones and talk to the great American people. We remain at 888-630-9625. Let us go to Lee, calling not coincidentally from Leesburg. Lee, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris Plante.
Hey, Lee.
Chris, I just wanted to bounce this off you and get your opinion, because I myself am not convinced that this operation in Iran is a good idea, for three reasons. Basically, the first one is, a week ago we weren't even talking about going into Iran, bombing another country, and start changing a regime. And Israel got into this, and they're doing their thing, but we're kind of like the dog here, and I kind of feel like this is like the tail wagging the dog. We're working on Israel's timeline, and, the American public is not maybe prepared to, going into a possible long-term war. Second is, these nuclear sites, from what I've read, I'm no expert on this, but I could just intuitively, understand that this is a network. This is not just one little spot out in the mountains somewhere. That these things this is like a mine, probably. However this operation is being run. So there's questions as to whether a run is going to do it, and is going to wipe these things out.
Right.
So and I hope that the U.S. military has a comprehensive, sophisticated plan in order to deal with all this.
Right, but we've
it's
seen this before, and we know better than to. We should know better by now. All right, let me share with you what the Wall Street Journal is reporting today. And this is, they just popped with this story less than a half an hour ago. European ministers to press Iran to curtail nuclear activities. Now, again, I think the most fun outcome here is Donald Trump earns the Nobel Peace Prize, which they'll never award to him. But he earns the Nobel Peace Prize, and everybody knows he should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize. And yet the United States never flies a warplane over Iranian airspace, never drops a bunker buster. But listen, now how do you get from here to there? President Trump is rattling everybody's cage, and yet he is. And I was informed yesterday that the E-4B, U.S. Air Force Doomsday plane, an airborne battle operations aircraft. It's a 747, looks a lot like Air Force One. It's an airplane I've flown around the world on and had some fun. We were talking about it this morning, refueling in flight aboard that airplane repeatedly. I got to go up to the cockpit for refueling in flight aboard the E-4B Doomsday plane. But a report from a reliable friend who said, the E-4B Doomsday plane has been pre-positioned at Andrews and is in D.C. in case Trump wants to go airborne. And it's a Cold War era Doomsday plane that we used to keep one aloft at all times. We'd keep one airborne at all times with a general aboard that could operate the communications gear, which is what it's all about, communicating with satellites and submerged submarines, and could bring the end of humankind from the E-4B airplane. And why would you bring in the E-4B right now if you're not readying for battle in the Middle East? And I think the answer might be that they're telegraphing, President Trump and the Trump White House are telegraphing all of this. We're moving a third aircraft carrier battle group, right? We've got the Carl Vinson already there. The Nimitz group is that Carl Vinson is an aircraft carrier, and it usually travels with a dozen or so warships, and including a submarine or two, and lots of ships that can launch missiles, and an aircraft carrier that can launch a lot of airplanes. And that aircraft carrier battle group is more powerful than just about any country on Earth all by itself. Then a second aircraft carrier battle group with the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier headed to the area. I think they're in the Indian Ocean or something, and it'll be a while till they get there. But then a third carrier battle group leaving the East Coast of the United States and heading that general direction. You don't typically announce that stuff when it's going to be many days, if not weeks, for the East Coast group to get there. You don't generally telegraph that stuff. And then you talk about the 30,000-pound bunker busters and the B-2s, and the news media is showing the videos of the B-2 bombers all over the place dropping the thing. In fact, I think, did Kevin post photos yesterday on social media on the Twitter and Facebook and stuff of me a long, long time ago, 28 years ago? I looked at this a couple of days ago, and I was like, I went to Whiteman Air Force Base a long time ago in my previous job, Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and hung out with B-2 bombers, and I got some pictures, and I said, let me go find these pictures. And there I am inside the hangar with a B-2 bomber at Whiteman Air Force Base with a sign behind me that says, "Do not enter, lethal force authorized," and guys with rifles there that'll shoot you if you go over and try to scratch the airplane. And they're expensive. You got to take care of your airplanes. And then I got aboard an in-flight refueling airplane, and I'm not sure if it was a KC-135 or a KC-10, and we went airborne, and then B-2 bombers came up and refueled in flight, and I was down in the bay where the man controlling the boom is, and a lot of fun as the B-2 bombers came up and refueled. So I gathered up a couple of photos. I had to go back to my old friend Jamie, who I covered the Pentagon with, and say, "You have these photos?" And he shared the photos with me. And Kevin Tober does a lot of our social media stuff, and he posted these photos yesterday. And I was looking at these photos, and I realized, man, I still have that shirt. Can't believe it. That's 1997. I'm very thrifty. Very thrifty. This is why you buy high-quality things. You buy high-quality garments. It's a wool-rich shirt. And I was looking at this. I said, man, do I still have that shirt? That's crazy. And not only do I still have that shirt, but my best girl said, not only do you have that shirt, you were wearing it this morning. And I was like, wait a minute, my 1997 B-2 bomber in-flight refueling shirt? And I should do commercials for wool-rich shirts. And I'll tell you what, I immediately went onto Al Gore's Amazing Internet, and I found the same shirt. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm going to buy the same. I'm like, man, that thing, that lasts. That's a high-quality garment right there. I said garment. And I'm a haberdasher. Isn't that great? So I'm still wearing the thing. Right now, back to bombing Iran, because that's probably more important than my shirt. As the conflict, the Wall Street Journal writes, European ministers to press Iran to curtail nuclear activities. And the Europeans are, because President Trump has forced them to the table. He's forced them to the table by rattling the saber. By way of talking about B-2 bombers, then the media shows B-2 bombers on a loop, hundreds and hundreds of times, the same video of the same B-2 bombers dropping the same bombs on the same patch of dirt in the desert somewhere, where Ilhan Omar's family comes from. Well, a different desert, but, black scorpions crawling over her sun-bleached bones in the windswept sands of some beephole country far away. But the Wall Street Journal continues, and honestly, the Europeans, they're now, not only are they at the table, they're trying to drive the train on denuclearizing Iran. The Europeans are, and they see, I don't know if they're actually afraid of Trump. I don't think they really are, the Europeans, but the Iranians are. And it gives the Europeans leverage and the United States leverage while Donald Trump puts the fear of Allah into them. And that's like the fear of God, but slightly different. And now if President Trump gets the Europeans on, and it looks like they're already on board, and the fake United Nations, which has never been united, and most of them shouldn't even be nations, and if President Trump gets them to really denuclearize it, it might involve the Ayatollah Khamenei dying of natural causes, piles or something like that. Could die of piles, couldn't he? Then President Trump denuclearizes Iran really with the assistance of these feckless, mostly useless European allies of ours. And then President Trump would deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, which they would not give to him. And President Trump could thumb his nose one way or the other at Barack Obama, who certainly did not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize and certainly did not denuclearize Iran, but perpetrated another terrible fraud, a sham against the American people and the people of the world because he's a Hollywood actor and not an actual world leader, Barack Hussein Obama. Now, the Wall Street Journal continuing, as the conflict enters its second week, I read this aloud to Michael Piercy earlier today. I said, boy, it seems like it's been a lot longer than a week, doesn't it? Seems like it's been like 2 months. Remember when Barack Obama started bombing Libya, one of 8 countries he attacked, used the U.S. military to it? And he said, oh, this will take days and not weeks. And then the media stopped paying attention. They just dialed it out because it's Barack Obama and he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And then he bombed Libya for 8 months. And the news media completely ignored it. Until there was regime change, by the way.
Let me emphasize that we anticipate this transition to take place in a matter of days and not a matter of weeks.
8 months later, regime change and left the country in the hands of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. We had Gaddafi, bad guy, deserved what he got in the end. But we, the West and the United States, really, we had him in a box. And he was handing over the Islamist terrorists to us. They were a threat to him, too. But we wanted him, and he was our little puppet, our plaything. He had been tamed and put into a box. And then you remember Hillary Clinton was very excited when Gaddafi was killed, and she decided to get all pseudo-Shakespearean on us.
We came, we saw, he died.
And they all laugh. That was regime change when Democrats are bombing countries for 8 months after they promise you it will be days and not weeks. They bomb it for 8 months. That leads to regime change, to the murder, the killing of the leader in a brutal fashion. And they literally laugh about it. And the new Hillary Clinton, she was thinking about her husband when she was laughing about killing world leaders. And the media, the New York Times, they applauded. Like, oh, this is why you get the Nobel Peace Prize for Arab nation regime change in North Africa, then the refugee crisis flowing into southern Europe and all that. But never mind that. So as the conflict enters its second week, European foreign ministers are meeting Iranian officials in Switzerland to push for de-escalation. This is the first time the Europeans have ever taken the lead on anything. And the only reason they're doing it is because Donald Trump is driving the process. And the goal is the total denuclearization of Iran. And let me say further, the goal is the total denuclearization of Iran without the United States ever dropping a bomb. That's the ultimate goal. And I believe that that is President Trump's goal also, that he would like to outsmart them all by rattling cages and by, is he threatening to drop bombs? I guess certainly there's an implied threat, even if it's an indirect threat, it is implied. And now we have Listen to this, the Wall Street Journal. European foreign ministers are meeting with Iranian officials in Geneva. There's a lake there, and a big fountain or two in the middle of it. On Friday, that's today, to press them to de-escalate and to offer a rollback of Tehran's nuclear activities. Now, the Europeans are in Geneva, much nicer than having to go to Iran, particularly under the circumstances today. The meeting comes after President Trump said he will decide on whether to strike Iran, quote, within 2 weeks, end quote. Now, President Trump didn't say that himself, but I believe that his wonderful spokeswoman said this yesterday, said that he will decide whether to strike Iran with bunker busters and stuff. And he's laid out a 2-week timeline. And what happened? The European ministers all got on airplanes and flew to Geneva. Hey, let's meet with the Iranians and see if we can get them to denuclearize.
I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you.
I will make my decision, go or no go, within the next 2 weeks. And honestly, I've gone back and forth a little, and that's part of Trump's negotiating style. And he likes people to quake in their moccasins and live in fear of what might happen, what he might do, and he doesn't even have to do it. He just has to raise an eyebrow. And half the world goes crazy. They go into a gender panic, right? So President Trump's next to it, according to the White House, and the president told senior aides on Tuesday that he had approved attack plans for Iran, but was waiting to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program, people familiar with the deliberations said. His goal is for Iran to abandon their nuclear program without him ever dropping a bomb. That's where I am now. All right, now let's grab a phone call, Michael, because I do go on. But let's go to Philip of Aragon. It's actually Philip, formerly of Arlington, but it's kind of a medieval title. Phil, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. So the massive ordnance penetrator, which is what everybody calls the bunker buster, is a 30,000-pound munition. And the mother of all bombs, the massive ordnance airburst, is a 22,000-pound munition. The Moab is designed to come out of the back of a C-130 on a pallet. Mm-hmm. Now, my suspicion is the MOP, the massive ordnance penetrator, might be able to do the same thing, but was never tested because no one ever thought there'd be a permissive environment. Right now, the Israelis have beat down the Iranian air defenses pretty bad. So pretty much the only thing left are anti-aircraft cannon. So I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing there's a very rapid testing process going on to certify the MOP for a C-130 to give the Israelis the option to go in. Now, it's chancy because it would be a low-altitude drop, comparatively speaking, probably like 25,000 feet versus the 50,000 plus of the B-2. But it's a possibility to give that option to Israel. I'll take a break if you have any questions.
Oh, I like that assessment, and it sounds like you may have some background in this field.
I am a former B-52 bombardier and also was a C-130 navigator. During the Vietnam War, the Big Blue 82, the 15,000-pound munition, was used extensively to make airfield or landing zones for helicopters.
Right, Daisy Cutter.
Think that the Daisy Cutter, right. Yeah. The C-130 definitely has the payload to carry it.
Right.
But like I said, I don't think anybody ever thought of going in with the penetrator because that's something for a hard target like Libya, North Korea, Iran. But now that Israel's beat down the air defenses, there's a distinct possibility that can happen. The second possibility is introduction of commandos to get on that target and go in there and get into the bunkers themselves.
Right.
I think those are both options for Israel. And I think President Trump is providing time and space to look at both of those.
I like the way you think, and I love the idea of using the MOP, the 30,000-pound penetrating bunker buster from an Israeli C-130 rather than from an American B-2 out of Whiteman. And you're right, if the Israelis have secured total air dominance over over Iran, then that becomes a very real option. I like less the commando raid, which would look like a scene from a James Bond movie or an In Like Flint movie, and that should be avoided because of the threat of the danger of casualties and even prisoners. But boy, I got to tell you, you are Philip of Aragon. You are the son of Charles V. You're dominant, and I love the let the Israelis bring it in on a C-130 option. That is fascinating. Phil, see where
there's one other option, Chris. I forgot to mention.
Yeah,
there are several aircraft in the world that are used to launch payloads into space. It's called the air to launch. There's a 747, an L-1011 Lockheed, and there's also that massive Strato launch, a huge plane with 2 fuselages. All 3 of them have the capability of carrying something this heavy. So that's another possibility, too, and they would fly much higher than C-130.
Fascinating. Phil, I got to tell you, I owe you a beer for this call. That was great. That was a great call. That's wonderful. I like
to break it on the Chris Plant Show. Breaking news.
Just wonderful. Great stuff. Phil, formerly of Arlington, saluting you, my friend. Just a great call. Thank you. Well, Philip of Aragon, I got to tell you, Phil, that's a phone call that people are going to be talking about at the dinner table tonight. Great stuff, just great stuff. Perfectly timed, wonderful, wonderful. After talking to the great Jasmine on phones today, who's no concert last night, right? No concert last night? No concert last night. That's it. You should go to a concert every night if you can. All right, real quick, we're running out the clock. Let's go to Randy calling from Rogers, Arkansas. Randy, you're on the Chris Plant Show. Randy, you're on the Chris Plant Show. You're calling from Rogers, Arkansas. And he's busy doing so. What do you think he's doing? Is he at the drive-thru? I think Randy's at the drive-thru. He doesn't have time. Randy, we have your time has expired. I just mean on the radio, not on Earth or anything like that. It's not a really big thing. It's okay. Got that. Also, have you seen this Republican congressman from Ohio that was nearly run off the road by a crazy Democrat with a Palestinian flag? A Jewish congressman, and some Democrat recognized him and attacked him because they're pro-Hamas, pro-Iran, anti-Semites. They're violent. They're criminally insane. They're Democrats.